says recruitment.
No, I'm not using that. Oh, it's still there though in my stream, in my slideshow.
That's not too
Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, that looks like it's good. Make sure the other one is off. Yep. And
Why does my iPad get so hot? What is that?
so
Are you live?
yes, we're live. I'm moving things to around and sending notifications to my Facebook and my Twitter account, Twitter X account. Well, yeah, what did I do with my thing so I could put it right here without leaning forward so much?
Oh,
Yeah, I think I have it in, I'll go get it.
I can
Well,
get it in just a second.
I put it someplace different.
Oh, not on in the bag, computer bag.
No. Okay, well, it looks like the volume works okay.
Yeah, it does sound good.
And, but it's taking a long time to load, seems like.
Let
Okay,
me go.
but it's loaded.
Oh. Something different, huh?
Hmm? Yeah, up there in the front somewhere, I think.
Here.
Oh, maybe I did stick it in the case. I don't know now.
Is it in here?
Oh yeah, maybe I did put it on top there. I wouldn't have put it inside, no. Okay. Sorry, I don't want you to waste your time. There is another one, but it's not it's not stiff. Hmm, what do I do with it? Is it up there on my notebook?
I just looked.
Oh, you did. Okay.
That's not. I mean, if you stuck it up here, then it's falling down.
Well, actually, that notebook might be able to work.
Drop.
All right, well, I don't have to use the mouse that much. Well, that's not true exactly. But good evening, Matthew Carey.
I don't, where did you
Good
put that
evening to you.
ball?
We moved today, so it's not underneath this, right? No, and very underneath. Right? Can you look under there quick?
It's not there. Why would it be? You just said
I don't
that.
know, because I'm a doofus sometimes.
No.
I put something where I wasn't supposed to put it.
That's the problem.
Oh, maybe it's in the box back there. Oh, I don't know. This is a waste of time. If I put it in that box, I'm crazy.
Well, some people would argue that you are. I don't see it in this box, so you're not that crazy. It might be in the one below that, though.
The one below it is my book, my old book box, I think. So no, it's not going to be in there. I didn't open that at all. I did open the other box. The computer box, right?
I don't know, baby. Just let's move on. Oh my God, you are. Maybe you want to start a new word. Okay, here, let me.
Started the stream, and I don't know what I did with
I
the
didn't
mouse pad.
see it anywhere up there. I didn't check the camera bag. Like, you guys get to see the back of Sawyer.
Camera bag. There's this one. So I'm going to use this one with the mouse. It's my book. I'll be able to stick it underneath enough where I'm going to stick it. Now, so it'll make the whole picture crooked. So it'll be, you've heard the story, right? There was a crooked man who walked a crooked mile. He lived in a crooked house. So I'm not crooked in a way that's against the human laws. Well, maybe not totally. I will take a creamer, extra creamers for my coffee. Okay. Oh, crooked gate. I had somebody criticize me for walking weird.
You don't
Okay, good. Good. I hate to be a weird walker and not know it.
want. I have watched you walk a lot, and you're not a weird fuck.
Okay, there's a big delay on this.
Yes, there always is.
Yeah, so let me go back to the chat and pop it out. Oh boy, it's not working right. Rise above, hello. You certainly haven't missed anything. Um, Good to see you both. Anyone else that's joining me in here? Uh, 3 individuals watching now. But I've got things, I always want to talk about, and I never get to. And but we named this "Loving the Next Level," which Kathy and I were talking about the tape 266. Yeah, I'm gonna put that on the screen. There you go. Which I had on the screen last stream as well. Um, you know what? I might even have my notes in the exact position they were in the last stream, so I can just continue on there with talking about that tape. But because these tapes, 264, 5, and 6 now, were so much about actually defining, understanding, feeling, actually, uh, what Doe was talking about in terms of his love for us and the next level's love for their older member. I mean, and each other. Older members in love with the younger members that they birth into the next level. And that's why a lot of the new age people, I'm saying new age people, just people that have become teachers with new age thinking, talk about love, of course, as a primary um, characteristic of what we hope to. Uh, well, see, that's the thing. It's the giving of it that's the most important part of it.
Like all you need is love.
Yeah,
It's like no, you
right, right. You need to.
need to work too.
Yeah, you need to work. You need to give love to what you're doing. I think is maybe one way to say it. Um, so, and that makes you either, from the next level's point of view, hot or cold to the next level. And it's all going to be in degrees, of course. And it's probably like a lot of, if you were watching a cardioencephalograph, how do you say
I
that?
don't even know what that
Encephalograph, I can't say it. Encephaly. No, I don't get it. I'm losing that. That part of my mind's going away. If there even was much of that part of my mind. But to begin with, but I was actually thinking not a cardiac machine. I was thinking a brain machine that it's got a whole bunch of frequencies it's going through, and so if those are all those frequencies, uh, might amount to the next level as a lot of them being wasted, just not of any value um, to growth of the soul, because that's just recording what's going through the brain, right? And the computer is not just the brain. The computer is the mind of the individual. And it took a long time for them to talk about that to where I believe I began to understand it. Um, pretty much everything they taught, I realize takes a long time to understand because it's like in degrees that we understand it. The only reason we can say we understand it is if, um, well, in my opinion, is if we have, um, you have to accept it, I think, on some level to understand it, because otherwise it's like, you hear the pros and cons, right? And you're blocking yourself from hearing the pros. And so when you're listening to something or you're reading something, you've got a filter going on in your head, so that you're not actually receiving what's there because you're not open to it. And at that moment, to whatever degree, and you can be fighting through that, and you can get out from under it sometimes, and go look into something, right? And if it catches your interest, then then to me that's something to go after, to try to understand better whatever it is that catches our interests. I'm talking about everything, not just about T and O's material. At least the way I'm seeing it. And I know it's kind of like highlighting the obvious, but uh, the thing with being obvious, it's not obvious to everybody, and it's not meant to be, and it's not even obvious to me because I only understand a little bit about how that works from what was given to me. You know that this vehicle has from its ancestry and the upbringing and everything, and the experiences with T and O is the primary dose of their mind that I was given and I received. I took it, I believed in it, and I still do, and I put it into motion. So I wasn't just believing; I was actually working on uh, building that mind in me. And when you're doing that, you get something from it. But the danger with that is that any student of the next level uh, needs to learn at some point is that they can then think that what they got is enough to carry them through their choices, through what they're thinking, through what believe in themselves or their vision, whatever it is. And it can be okay, but but it also has a danger that by making their vision manifest, uh, they get off track of what the next level would have them manifest. And it really comes down, that's why it's for or against kind of thing. It's like in every different like walk of life, there's something that will take you away from the next level, and there's something that can draw you to the next level. I think is easy to say. It could be shown, even though I don't have examples right on the top of my head right now. But uh, well, it's like pursuit of a career, right? You could get to a point to where, you think, oh well, you know what? If I just lie a little here and lie a little there, and pretty soon it's a manipulation. Advertising goes a certain way, and pretty soon it's you know, I scratch your back and you scratch my back with the other people that we're working with, and and all kinds of things progress to where uh, you're no longer necessarily operating. Can't judge anybody, but you're no longer operating by asking the next level for anything. And if you're not asking the next level for something, then you're not going to get it. It's just that pure and simple, unless you get to a place to where you start asking again, or asking in a way that is showing the next level, which you might not be able to help from doing if you've lost somebody dear to you, like in a flood, but asking the next level for help um, uh, to deal with any pain and suffering that happens to anybody. And it could be that, so nothing ends up being a negative. And that's not Pollyanna talk. That's real. That the next level is overseeing this planet and the human kingdom. And all of its creatures are in the next levels uh, um, consciousness. That doesn't mean that it's equal to all the members. No, it's not, of course. We have to get their attention if we want to um, connect with them more. And how do we get their attention? We ask for help. We ask for direction. We ask for service if we really want service. You have to want it. Nobody's going to get it if they don't ask for it. I mean, they'll get it in indirect ways, potentially, by the way that the next level of information still reverberates through the entire civilization. I'm not saying to what degrees it does that, but there's plenty of people that have taken the name Heaven's Gate, made it the name of their ministry in Africa, and um, I think there's one individual that um, is called the Heaven's Gate Ministries. It doesn't mean that he got that from the T&O story, uh, but because it's in the airwaves. When the next level comes with their minds and everything they do is a magnified thought that has more power than other thoughts because it's true, because it's real. It's not a facsimile of uh, what's real. And what's the facsimile? Well, the way we can talk about love is all there is, you know, right? Because that's not all there is. And I know that was probably said in a way to um, want people to embrace love, but it's not the love. It's who is loving who. That's the biggest part of that question to me. That's that statement. I mean, love in itself is a force, right? It's a powerful force, and we get some love, I think, from the sun. I could be wrong about that. It's energy, it's force, but it might be that it's being transmitted by the sun to us, and maybe it's other planets might be actually sending us their love, because love to the next level is helping us grow, like to be the best we can be, to grow to be the best we can be, um, to become uh, a beautiful flower in their garden, but not to look at and not to sell the petals of, or not to, but to have participation in their whole operation. You're not in participation of the whole operation. You're not working at headquarters. You're not in the meetings that the older members are having if they have meetings together. I don't know how that works exactly, but um, but they do communicate with each other on a need to know basis, because that makes sense. That's the real basis. And the humans, of course, you know, they design things on that basis too, but they do it a lot of times to hide. And sometimes they need to hide, I think, because there are, forces in this planet, in these governments of, people trying to bring them down and cause problems. That's been happening, every election, I'm sure, has foreign interference. And he just recently talked about the Chinese foreign interference, but I didn't see the details of it. I know some of the Russian stuff that was happening. Of course, that got amplified uh, beyond beyond the truth. It became a so what? So the lower forces of this planet. I'm talking about the space alien souls, the ones that were members of the next level in an elementary capacity who had spacecrafts doing next level tasks that were very elementary for the next level. And I think that the definition of that kind of task was described by Enoch as the Watchers. I'm not going to say why right this moment, but you can ask me that question, and I'll give you my ideas of why I'm saying that. But uh, so so watching is like it's a it's a task that doesn't you don't change anything by watching. I know there's an argument between Einstein and Bohm. In my limited reading of Einstein and Bohm, very limited, uh, to where they were experimenting with seeing cells changing when they were being viewed, acting differently when they were being viewed by somebody. And I don't doubt that that's the case. But I don't know if it's what's coming out of the eyes as a reflection, but it might be. It might be because I know Kathy, would able to communicate with, tell the bugs, sometimes to go in a different direction, and it seemed to work. It was interesting the way she would do things like that sometimes, and animals also. It's like people have a feel for animals, and I think Kathy's one of those people, and uh, and has a kind of communication with them that um, somebody that's too intellectual and doesn't take into the account the dimension of reality that we can't measure uh, existing. No, I'm saying I'm talking about somebody else now. You're not too. No, I was talking about somebody that would examine someone that seems to have an intuition or whatever you want to call it to what animals might be thinking. Yeah, like a psychic intuition. I was talking about the people that think that's a bunch of tomfoolery. There I go with voicing the negative to that. But I don't think there's necessarily a wrong. That's a wrong thing to do at this point. But I'm not going to I'm not going to focus on it. But because focusing on the negative can stimulate that negative to exist more. But it also, I believe, can alert someone to what might be the negative if they haven't thought about it that way. So, because like I think we were talking about the tape a little bit, there was something that we said about I forgot what it was now. I lost it. Oh, really? Wow. Considering how warm our vehicles are uh, in our motorhome, that's very in the hot sun today. Anyway, we've kept it under 90, right? Under 85 most of the time. 88 for a little bit. Yeah, it's hot. Well, I got way off the track from what I was talking about. 83. It feels okay to me because I'm feeling the breeze from there. Yeah, I so So the facsimiles, I remember in tape 25, 6, and 7, I believe, those were three that were done in Black Hawk, Colorado. And where T said about Lucifer that um, he was a copy. Is that right? Do you remember that, Kathy? Oh no, that humans are copies. We're all copies off the and I thought, whoa. I never did think I understood that until at that time, for sure. But it reminded me that that's what the genes are recording, right? They're recording on our cellular structures within each cell in the nucleus. Um, Whatever has happened to that being and the polarity of it, and it's not like one thing. It's described as a double helix because it's probably got trillions of storage places, and that if you took away the flesh part, let's say you could just vanish the flesh immediately and you wouldn't have, and but you would still see the outline of all the little points of light, little frequency that was in the nucleus of that cell and was permeating through all the other cells of the organ and so forth. And so, people have described that as like you would see the shape of a human potentially. But I think Kirlin of photography talked about this and showed this kind of thing. And and you would see that there were centers that were brighter, and one center was, I think, the top of the head, the forehead, and the other center was like, I think, the solar plexus or the heart area. Even though solar plexus, I guess, solar, I guess that's maybe that's where it got that name, or the soul location of the soul. That way, I wouldn't be surprised if that play on words has some like the seat being there of each human. A plasma kind of like plasma, not plasma, but Doe said like plasma. It's interesting, that he knew that it might not be what humans are going to determine is plasma. Because, they have plasma that comes from the blood, right? So I don't think it's that kind of plasma. But, um, but they say the sun is made out of plasma. So I don't know, if they've ever been able to get back some kind of substance from the sun. I don't know. I never heard about that because everything gets burned up, I guess.
Yeah, that is a good. Have they retrieved anything from Venus? I wonder.
I think they might have. I don't know.
I know they
Maybe
landed on
not.
Venus. Russia landed on Venus, I think,
Oh,
wasn't it?
did they?
And there's some images from the surface.
Yeah, I heard some people talking about how, um, well, the thought I had about that was, for whatever it's worth, was that I could see that if the space aliens were allowed to be that far away from the Earth, you know, however the next level is limiting them, um, that Uh, maybe maybe they've got bases on Venus or inside of Venus, or you know, or maybe one group does, or one part of different racial, because they're like races, the way that Doe would talk about them, and from different planets, not even from Venus necessarily, or maybe a previous you know civilization or something. Who knows? But uh, I don't know if there's anybody that's got anything back from them. But I think every time they go up and land on a planet, or something like that, they usually have soil samples they take and stuff. I know they did that with the Mars rover quite a bit. I always wondered why those pictures of the different thing, the face and everything, but the other things that were pictured on Mars, like they had this like person like standing there and it's like a scarecrow look to him, or maybe he was walking or something. And I wonder, why does it have to be so vague? If you got a rover, why can't you drive over to that, and and get a really good picture of it so that we can see if it's actually evidence of something man-made or human-made or Martian-made.
So we had the really bad floods in Texas, and then we had really bad flooding in North Carolina, and now there's really bad flooding going on in New Mexico.
Hmm.
Rodezio, New Mexico.
Where in New Mexico again?
Ruidoso,
Ruidoso?
Ruidoso.
Is that just north of Albuquerque?
Honestly, not sure.
It sounds like the place where we had a house. I mean, no, that was called Rio Rancho, I think. The place where we had a house north of Albuquerque. Yeah, but there are.
I mean, in the Southwest, there are
Yeah,
not like necessarily a lot.
that's if I remember that. But I thought there was a town over
No,
there.
it's let's see, it's south. It's closer to Alamogordo. I felt
Oh,
like it was somewhere that we had driven, we had seen. Yeah,
oh, okay.
it's out by It's
Alamogordo, okay.
it's north of the. Okay, so here's the White Sands National Park. You know where we were,
Yeah.
and it's up here.
Oh,
So
I
it's not
see.
that far from. We drove up. I think I can't remember which way we went to get.
I thought we
We
came
went through
down
this
through
way.
Alamogordo
We
to.
went this way.
Did we go twice though? Then to that
We
area?
went all over a bunch. So I'm not sure. I know I saw signs for that town. That's why when I saw that it looked familiar, but I don't think that we went through there cuz we were like we went through Alamogordo and down here and then over to 25 and then up. We did we go into Las Cruces? No, I
I
don't think
don't
we
know.
didn't. I don't think we did.
No.
We went north from there
Okay.
because we were coming from
We bypassed
Huntsville.
it, didn't we?
But we didn't need to go down that far,
Yeah.
was what it was.
Yeah. See, that was
Anyway.
Kathy's talking about when we were together, when we first got together for the first year we were traveling. Maybe it wasn't the whole year, but uh, and we were thinking we were looking
The
for
good part of
land,
the year we were
even
traveling.
though we didn't know how we were going to buy it. But we did have some options with the credit and stuff. So anyway, but so we were thinking about that, and we were thinking about a place to live and even start a museum, of some sort, and for Heaven's Gate. And,
We still want to do that.
yeah, it's still a good idea to
Information
me.
center, museum, what have you.
I don't think we need to hide unless we're forced to for some reason.
Oh yeah, see this was close to Cloudcroft as well, and we did drive through there.
Yeah. So yeah. So anyway, so we didn't find anything that could work, and it was kind of interesting. I thought it was an interesting story. But so maybe we'll have to tell it sometime. But uh, well, it made me think. It made me think of the this object that came back into the. It seems to be approaching Earth, and it's not going to get much closer than Mars, they say. But it's also demonstrating strange behavior and coming from the same place that Oyumama came from and Borisov, Comet Borisov before that, before Oyumama. I'm not saying it right, probably, but
Yeah, we're probably definitely not saying it.
Oyumama, maybe
Oh,
Mau Mau or
no.
Oyumama or something.
Anyway,
But,
sounds like a kid's song.
but yeah, right. But I think it means traveler or something, distant traveler,
Different distant traveler.
something like that. In Hawaiian, maybe, or something like that. Anyway, so you all probably know about it already, but um, and there's one that's coming close again, which I don't doubt is next level. Uh, um, it's got too many earmarks to not be something that the next level stimulating, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that it's going to become something that is going to destroy the earth or I don't pretend to have any kind of information like that. Doe didn't even want to really talk about that much. He just knew that it was going to happen. Not the earth was going to be destroyed, but that there was going to be a recycling of the human kingdom. He didn't say how, when, where, and
And how
to what
long?
degree and for how long
Yeah.
it was going to take to get to that point. Uh, um, you know, so it's kind of irrelevant then to, uh, well, I mean, it makes sense because of the way society is to have enough, a certain amount of days of food in your cupboards, I think, but how much, trouble to go to try to predict what is going to happen in order to, be like a prepper or something, right? And so you're buying all the things for survival, and then when they all get worn out by their late, their dates of their dried foods and stuff, then you have to buy a whole new supply. And I think of all the people that thought the world was going to end when Trump was elected, and thought, and so there was a run on the market. People were thinking, well, maybe I need to stock up. Maybe it wasn't directly related to Trump, but I mean, being elected, but it was similar to that, I think. And I could feel that I wanted to, also do the same thing, and I think I did. I took advantage of a few sales, I thought, to buy more things than I normally would have, because I do think that when those things are happening, we can we can go to one extreme or another, and I guess depends if you have a lot of money, then you can go to one extreme, uh, the extreme of having a lot of things stored somewhere for that future time when you might not be able to have food, or but that's not like not trusting the next level at all. Can be in your life, and by our asking. At the same time, it doesn't mean that the next level would have us ignore the signs around us of things of trouble circumstances to where you might want to have some supplies. So the next level thinking isn't like black and white in that, or maybe that's uh, you know, um, there's no like rights and wrongs, but there are extremes, Uh, and there's also misguided, you know, ideas. People being afraid of everything, and so they want to see if they can protect all their money and layers of protection. And of course, when you don't have money, then you don't have to worry about that, do you? But there's always going to be something to worry about. Like we've been worrying about some things that were happening in our little lives, right? Little in comparison to the world, and we just want to be someplace where we have some shade. And we found a site that was shaded, and yet we weren't supposed to move into it because somebody else was reserving it, and uh, and
Or
and
they
the,
had moved somebody into it.
yeah, they had moved somebody into the what was we thought was going to be a reservation for us, but we were also thinking that they were paying more attention to our reservation than we were, because we weren't that specific, and they don't, they get hit all different angles by people in these parks with the people that
Yeah.
are running the show, and people want to reserve a site and they want another site next to them so that they can have their family and friends together with them, having, a party in the campground to them. It's recreational activity where we're not recreational. We don't live in a recreational vehicle
Yeah. We
because we're living in, this is our house we're driving around with us. And so anyway, um, it just, I can just drop that I'm getting at. I probably went way off track against about, but that's what I do. I can blame it on that, right? Um, so where should I go? To chat? Maybe see if there's anything going on there. There wasn't too much going on, and I probably haven't stimulated anything.
What's that icon for right there?
Which one?
I was looking at.
Did it go away?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, S. Cook is here, says hello everyone. I don't remember seeing S. Cook before.
I feel
So,
like that
well,
I've seen. I don't know.
but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. That's the only way I'm going to know uh, to talk about certain aspects, because there's so much to the entire T and O story that um, it's almost, it would be impossible in a short stream to even come close to talking about everything. It might take a year streams back to back, some crazy number, because it keeps on growing also, our perception of what was happening. But so let me get back to my notes. So as I was reading the beginning of this, I'm talking about, and Kathy is sitting next to me if you hear her voice occasionally. Um, uh, Notes on audio 266, which was recorded on September 13th, 1987, while I was present, by the way. And it talked about hugging and understanding what is happening to us and hugging our classmates and receiving older member visits and inhibiting factors to receiving older members' mind, too enthusiastic hugging, 9/15/87, drain from the human ties. And then task of visits was to free us and become recipients of a higher bond, embellishing instructions, clipping ties. Uh, because If somebody doesn't know what those keywords all mean, they're not going to know. I don't hardly, I barely know what those keywords mean. I mean, I do, but only because I've been, I had the experiences and I've been staying with the information and listening to the tapes again and again. And that showed me a lot of things that I didn't remember and I didn't even hardly recall. But that's the only reason I understand these words. But all these words can look one way to somebody as brainwashing and all that. Sure, it could all look like that. But what people don't know is that they didn't brainwash us. We were required to wash out our own brains of our humanness. Literally, learn what it was that was going through our minds that was of no value to the growth of a next level mind. I mean, it might be of value to if you have a job in the world, of course, or doing something and you're working on a computer. That's human mind that you're using for that, even if it originated, in its development from the next level. It's still humans putting things into motion uh, um, uh, in human ways. That's natural for humans. It's not like a bad thing, and and but it's not. The humans aren't checking with the next level on, is this the right way to do this, or would you have me do it this way, or talking to their perception of the highest source, because we don't know what the highest source is in general, right? I mean, how do we know that anybody's potentially hearing anything we think or say? But the religions, are kind of based on that there is something that uh, can actually technically in some way hear what we're thinking and saying, and they can even feel like they see evidence of that in certain miracles and things, and of course this extends into the new age, more the new age thinking, which expanded everything to be uh, more and more uh, both containing next level ways of thinking and containing distorted ways of thinking. And because everything has that, like the religions have ways of thinking that do evidence coming from the creators of this planet and the life forms on it, and things that don't evidence. And of course, that evidence is, according to my opinion, at this point, unless we actually hear Doe talking about different things, which we do. I mean, not a lot, but we can actually uh, um, we can see quite a bit actually of the things that are from the next level. In fact, everything we need is within the materials left behind. The whole human kingdom couldn't have anything better, in my opinion, than all access to all the materials left behind by Tiendo and crew. I'm not counting myself in that, by the way. I'm not, I don't think anybody necessarily needs what I've got saying here, but that doesn't mean that I'm not doing something for the next level. So, that's the task actually for any student is to they describe this in the document on the Heaven's Gate website, in their book. That OBS is disconnected and now it's reconnecting. I don't know when it reconnected successfully. So my OBS cut out at some point, but I was just saying that next level, we have a lot of information on the Heaven's Gate website, and you can read what a number of the students were saying. and you can see yes, you'll see similarities. You'll see a lot of things that are exactly the same as others are saying, and that's because it's true that they were all aware of the same degrees of the same awareness of who T and O are and who they were in relationship. They are in relationship to T and O, and um, so well, I was going to segue in a normal direction, but I don't want to go in that direction. Wait a second, because I'm a little bit wary, and I think I've put too much attention on what the naysayers say and what they want to focus on, what they want that they don't want to see necessarily in a higher way or in a more accurate way. A higher way would be a more accurate way. It would be more real. And I didn't understand those words. I understand them a little bit better now. That that we really are living like the Hindus would call it Maya in my limited study of the Hindu religion. I think it was Maya though. I keep on bringing that up, and
Maya is
yeah. So I mean, in that tradition, for that meaning of that word, it was an illusion. I'm just saying that because uh, um, it's illusion in English. Okay, so it's like, and I don't know what it is in German, and you know, but it's all something that's not true, not real, and that's what he was talking about in those Black Hawk tapes. Is that humans really aren't real yet. Doesn't mean they can't become real. And the only way I was thinking about that at the time and thereafter was that, well, because humans don't exist very long. And I think that's one facet of the realness. But it's also not knowing that they were created and that that all the life forms were created and that the next level is managing this planet and everything that's happening on it, except for the things where that are free will. And even that they're managing in some ways potentially. I say potentially because I don't know. Some ways they may not be managing. Like I don't know how closely they have members watching what all the Joint Chiefs of Staff do, or the the cabinet members, or the bankers. Probably not a whole lot, but they may have somebody that's got their pulse on a lot of different things. Okay, because they have computer systems that we can't even fathom. Our computer systems. It was interesting that Kathy was telling me about a news event of Trump talking about um, not having any regulation to the building of these data centers that are going to have their own power supplies on them because they take so much data, they take so much electricity. And so I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking, wow, yeah, wouldn't you want to have a power supply, right, where you have a military base with an underground facility, and because to me, uh, the military locations, well, but then again, you might not want to put an underground city by a military location because that military location might end up being a target. So, so maybe you would want to have it a little bit away from an actual base. And then you put in your own runway and everything. And these days, yeah, you could, who knows how they could come and go and nobody know what's going on except by the satellite footage. But we know that, Google Maps, blurts out some areas, and Probably even their premium version blocks out certain places, I would imagine. But see, that's all humans evidencing what was said in Revelation about them digging into the dens and the rocks, uh, going underground, you know, which they've been doing for a long time. I mean, decades. I don't know how many. If I was going to guess, I'd say at least five. I mean, I'm not talking,
Over that. We'd
yeah,
say since the 50s. So
yeah,
it's 2025 now.
maybe since
So 70 years at least.
whenever they thought that that was a
Maybe even the
place to
20s.
hide.
Yeah.
I know when I was a child in elementary school, we used to have the air raid drills, which were actually against nuclear bombs. And we all went out of the classroom, and then we put our heads down, went on our knees, and curled up on our knees, and then put our hands over our heads in the hallways, right against the wall, because or under the desk, but mostly it was on the wall.
Yeah, up against the lockers.
Yeah,
That's what they had us do too.
yeah,
As if that was really going to help.
right, right.
I guess, it would be easier to, if there were any bodies left.
Well, what are you gonna do? I mean, if it happens, I mean,
Well,
you
all the
know,
bodies would be lined up, so at least they wouldn't be in all the rooms,
they'd be easier to
scattered about.
find, or
That's what I'm saying.
charred remains if they went through the heat of
Yeah,
that explosion.
that's right.
Yeah. So I guess that's a pretty gentle way of taking everybody out, right? I mean, fast, right? You
Well,
would
if you're
think,
in the, right in the bomb,
right?
the blast radius, but other than that, no, it sucks and it's a horrible, horrible death.
Yeah, right.
Painful. I think it takes like less than a week, but you're vomiting and,
But that movie, you mean that they made about it?
well, no, there's just radiation sickness.
Yeah, yeah,
There's plenty of movies made about it, yeah, of course.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, we watched,
There's something about England being
yeah, we
hit
watched,
by
it's called Threads,
threads.
is what is called.
Yeah,
And it was what came out in the 70s or something, and they played it on the BBC.
and did it
And
scare a bunch of people?
yes, it traumatized a whole generation of people,
Yeah,
apparently.
no, I could see that.
And it was pretty good. I mean, it was
It was. It
actually,
was pretty good the way they did it.
I mean, it's old,
It
so
had a sense of reality to it.
yeah, so it was
Yeah,
pretty bleak and horrifying, actually. Highly recommend it.
but yeah. So the facsimile part of this story, if you want to put it that way, um, is that okay? So let's say the next level was ready to start the end of the civilization with a graduation classroom. Okay, and so they decided that those that had grown to a point to where they had more significant service and they had next level vehicles on board spacecrafts of some sort that could be as big as a planet and all that. So let's say they sent them to the Earth and they said, okay, you're going to crash this spacecraft because we want to give evidence to humans that we are physical and we exist. And they're going to find some of your bodies and they're going to see that the bodies are a different composition than any humans that they could imagine. And so they would know that there really were people that came from outer space, that they really existed. Okay, so and by doing that, you were going to be losing your vehicle. And so it was given as an option to individuals that this was communicated to people from all different planets that this was happening, and and it was uh, even a requirement. I think the next level wanted to see that the same going against them didn't happen. So the bar was going to be raised for getting into the next level. It was going to be harder to become an elementary member, like happened with Lucifer and those other souls that sided with him, even though they're not necessarily siding with him now. And that's why you see all different kinds of people fighting against each other, because they're doing things in their own ways, influencing humans. And you can have one cowboy can ride herd over a lot of cattle. And since a soul that uh, was once in the next level's company, in their older members' company, on their cruise on spacecraft. I don't know what degree of spacecrafts they were on. They might not have ever been brought onto a what humans would call a mothership, for headquarters, because their vibration might not have been good enough yet. But it was good enough for them to give them some kind of tasks that they couldn't mess up as like watchers. Okay, so they made the spacecrafts for them, or the next level got them from a previous civilization where it could have been even that humans or human equivalents grew up in that civilization and didn't have the influence of the lower forces of the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. So they developed transportation and different inventions that the next level could use, and they could use also. So that would be like a next level base way of thinking, which Tiendo talked about in 1975. As the next level has some planets that they can come and go from, and they don't have to worry about the humans shooting them down and trying to shoot them down or something. They can be visible. But on Earth, they don't. I don't know how often they're visible, but I think it's very rare that they let themselves be seen if they are doing a task like collecting a soil sample or something. But and so I'm talking about that. So I think the sightings that people are having, probably most of them are probably from either space aliens or humans that have acquired that technology or close to it, because those felt like the space aliens weren't going to give humans uh, too much of their technology, because then the humans would be in competition with them. And that might be happening. There might be a number of things happening that, uh, because there is evidence that there have been altercations between humans and space aliens. And now, believe me, I don't believe everything I hear, but I tend to believe more as being highly possible because of the things that Tiendo said and took us through in the study of um, both religious materials at one point, which is the beginning of it, that we're seeing at this time period in 1987, um, and and uh, what the next level has in store for this planet, for the future, and what the space aliens want by being here. And the answer to that last question, I believe, is that they want a few things. I'm not saying they're all of equal, it doesn't really matter, but they're all primary things that they want. And one is they want more individuals that are that think the way they think and act the way they act. To have more workers among humans, and maybe to have better vehicles that they can then control more directly, because those individuals don't question what they're getting from a space alien soul, because they've overwhelmed that individual in the human kingdom with their technology and or their uh, their vibration that is probably a very likable vibration. It's probably a very loving vibration. In terms of being a pleasant individual to be around, and you know, the, because they're not like as depicted, as the Wicked Witch of the West or whatever, or East, whatever that was. And, with all this evil behavior, even though their behavior is quite evil when they are actually trying to manipulate humans and to go against all the members that created them and the life forms on this planet and are allowing them to still influence humans, which they do so that humans have the choice of what to believe and what to do. So if we didn't have all this talk about space aliens and becoming more and more real to us, um, that kind of serves, I think, as positive. Well, it can be a positive and a negative. It can be a negative to where somebody um, thinks that's the top of the food chain kind of thing, what the space alien said. And so they join the group of the contactee that is representing Arcturans or the Etherians or the Pleiadians or um, I don't know how many there might be now. I'm just talking about the ones I knew about, 20 or 30 years ago. And so they become the masters for those humans that look to them with all their hearts, all their minds, all, whatever. So, and they become, to some degree, you know, propagating that religion that becomes a religion in their own little uh, definitions, or a cult. Like Jim Jones was probably somebody that uh, a space alien was paying attention to, because they don't pay attention to everybody either. But they may have the same kind of equipment to where they can pay attention to. Um, well, I don't know about that actually. I was about to say they could program what their computers on board the spacecrafts can pay attention to. And I kind of got a feeling that that's not necessarily so, Sawyer. And I mean, that's the feeling I got. I'm not saying it's true that it was, but the thought I got with that was that if the next level designed their spacecrafts, the next level may have made the computer systems to operate in a certain way to look for things that the next level had an interest in knowing about. that might have been, let's say the next level has computer systems that can look at the geology of the earth in all different ways and decipher things and whatever, okay? Or the animal kingdom, you know, all different things regarding the animal kingdom so that they can analyze whether, the species is good that it dwindles and goes away and instead of like humans like saying that we got to keep all the species alive, you know, um, which Doe spoke against in the UFO Missionaries Extraordinary book. So let's say they have computer systems that can do that. Would the people that were doing the watcher task need to have a computer system to look at the animal kingdom? Uh, um, and also, if their task was to watch only, then is the next level designing what's going to alert them to what humans are doing? Like the way example that we got from Doe was that if somebody in the human kingdom was thirsting for the truth about things, or looking for more reality, looking for more purpose for life, and whatever their idea, whatever they're looking up to, reaching to, doesn't have to be thought of as up necessarily, although it probably is, because it's above the earth, uh, as opposed to asking creatures that are living inside the earth. That would be the opposite of what the next level would hope for us to do, because our signals can actually go out of the atmosphere and get to the next level spacecrafts. So, with that, if there's thirst involved, in other words, if the light on the console is a little brighter than the rest of the lights in that area or whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily be limited to an area, I don't think. I think if it's a brighter light, then it comes to their attention by their standards of who is attempting to grow. And it could be somebody that's dealing with all kinds of difficulties and they're just pleading for the next level, for some higher source to help them. They may call it God, they may call it Buddha or Krishna um, or Muhammad or whatever it is, in those terms, or Jesus. But and the next level can know um, that somebody asking for Jesus. I don't know what they do with any individuals asking help of Jesus right now, but they do know that they've made available the updates that Jesus said he would bring, and and that if we don't want to look at those updates, then we don't really want to know who Jesus was in reality. So in our minds, we really aren't necessarily talking to Jesus when we're using the word Jesus, because it's what's in our mind about that in which we put on a pedestal. How we believe in it, how we think about it, what we understand Jesus was attempting to teach us. And the details of what he was attempting to teach us uh, are probably some of the things that are least important uh, to what to further growth. Because if we're just clinging to those scriptures and we don't think that there can be any new teachings, to keep on going from the book of Revelation, because that was put at the bottom, the back of it, as if to say that the whole Bible was you couldn't say anything to add to it or take away from it, or you'd be condemned, which it says you know in the Revelation book, the last book of the Revelation material, and and that was like the lower forces having that interpretation of what John wrote, or maybe John didn't write it in the most accurate way, But the next level may have even allowed it to happen that way because knowing that humans would cling on that and that would become like a filter that would separate the ones that, uh, I mean, one of the little separators from make it more of a challenge to identify the updates when they come because it's going to be a challenge. It has to be a challenge. It can't ever not be a challenge. Or we're not seeing the update in reality. We're not we're not um, understanding what's actually happening, and we've got some part of an understanding potentially, and we're not expected to have total understanding because nobody does. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a significant understanding. You moved the whole air conditioner? How did you do that? It's heavy.
I can talk to air conditioners too.
Hmm.
Um,
Talking to the air
no,
conditioners.
I
That would be something, right?
can't.
If we could talk to the air conditioner and say, "Can you fix yourself?"
As efficiently as possible. So
This is a little friend of ours. One way you could look at this
we got him
individual is
in.
that Dr. Little Green.
We got him in Mexico, I
Did we get to the Roswell?
think. No, we didn't get
It
him.
was another place that was down the
We got
street,
him
right?
at a gas station.
Yeah, because everybody and their brother sells paraphernalia related to the Roswell Museum.
Into Alien.
I'm not going to do a real long stream, but I do have a few other things to bring up.
Yeah, I'm just.
So good night. Well, you may not go to sleep yet.
It probably won't be out of it. Because I did wake up at 3:50.
Uh,
I did go back to bed.
Actor Michael Merchant is here. Hope you are well. Thank you. Same to you. I um so so I read the notes on Audio 266, and for anybody that's new to this stream, even over the last 3 or 4 streams, um, it's well, I'm not even going to give a synopsis. Hopefully, you can read what's on the screen because I already did. And I want to move on to other things, but it is all teaching us about next level love. So, um, if you were hugging somebody and it was instruction from your older member to hug that individual, you weren't hugging them. You were imagining that your older member was hugging that individual through you. That you're a conduit for your older member's love. Um, and 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 the mechanics of that I am going to go into a little bit because it's very important, I think, to our understanding. The mechanics of that is that, well, in this example, was when students were given the task of visiting relatives that weren't in the class, of course, and that we had hardly been in touch with. Well, a little bit over the last 2 years before that, because we had a visit that T instigated in 1987, or no, 85 or so. And this was 1987 where we were going on visits during this tape. And you can hear people coming back coming back and calling on the phone and getting new information passed on to them that Doe wanted to relay to the ones that were at their family's house at the time, and I did a visit then too, both times. Anyway, but that he wanted us to, like, even if we were holding the hands of our loved one, our mother, let's say, uh, um, he wanted the students to be literally feeling, and of course thinking, that they're a conduit for their older members' love to that individual, and that if they were giving their love, uh, it wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to help them. Uh, well, maybe it could a little bit for the moment, but it wasn't going to be. It was going to fade. Where if we were giving our older members love, then it doesn't fade. It makes an impression on the individual, and they can be healed of negativity. They could even have a certain amount of healing physically, and because the older members' minds are, we don't have any idea how powerful their minds are. Even the limited mind that they brought to those vehicles, we don't know how much of the rest of their mind that didn't get into their vehicles was in the atmosphere. Or, Doe used to talk about it as, maybe it's a blob, or or maybe the older members actually, another individual is actually being the source of some of what uh, they're getting, and while they're occupying those vehicles that we know of as by the human names, people know them, but we call them Tiendo, and those are the names they chose for themselves. And anyway, this even really boils down to even electromagnetics, I think. Now, I'm not saying I'm describing this in a accurate way, but I think it's accurate enough to where it can work, at least in my limited brain with my limited science background, that every cell has some kind of electromagnetism in it, right? So, so theoretically, the next level can shower us with something that could go into our vehicles and even heal cells and even reverse the aging process if they felt uh, um, that was their instruction to do it. And and you'll hear where Doe talks about that in the previous tapes to this a little bit. He doesn't go into, like, a whole bunch of hocus pocus imaginary details about it. He says he doesn't understand exactly the mechanism, and to me that's a sign of a next level member, not somebody that um, a lot of us in the human kingdom were taught that, if God could be among us, then wouldn't that individual know everything? And that when that movie came out, oh God, you know, at least the first one, we watched it in the classroom, and I think it came out when T and Do T was still in her vehicle, but I could be wrong. But I think they liked it. But it doesn't mean they liked everything about it. Not at all. It doesn't work that way. But if they liked it enough to where it had some messages in it, sometimes they would talk about it, sometimes they wouldn't. about any movies that we saw. We saw a lot of movies, and but the fact that they gave it to us to watch meant that they thought we could get something out of it. That was what they wanted to see us get from things. And the only way you're going to understand what I'm talking about a little bit more than right now is by starting to listen to their tapes. And you can even think of it as a research project, you know. You don't have to think about believing it. I mean, if it helps you to do it, I think, you know, whatever if you have to convince yourself that, I don't want to think this way because I'll end up wanting to kill myself, right? But no, wrong, you won't. What you want to do is you want to know more, and you want to get the feeling that you get from sharing the information with others, and 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 you know whatever you're in all the ways that you're potentially doing that in life. It could be at the store, it could be wherever, where you're wanting to be of service, and the next level will lead you to opportunities if you want that service, and you prove to them that you want it. They'll give you opportunities to where you can learn more about T&D's information and where you can share more of what you're learning. Even if it's just having the question posed to somebody, what if they were right? You know, maybe 20 years ago, somebody couldn't imagine saying that to somebody about the story. Or maybe that's actually 25 years ago, right? Or 27, 8 years ago. But, um, uh, okay, nothing new in the chat. So let me move on. I already talked about that. Proper restraint. Oh, yeah, talking about when you're like, when somebody was holding the hands of someone that uh, was one of their loved ones when they were in the world before they joined with T&O on the visits. Uh, um, One of the examples of how the older member can help was by the student, even a test for the student as well. Can they follow that instruction that was given to actually express to that loved one of theirs that T&O loves them, and that T&O have suffered a lot while they were suffering because of the absence of somebody that they were close to in their lives, and so that became um, because the response that's the air conditioner. Sorry, but it's necessary. But the response of the person that's receiving that in that context I think one example was that Alodi was visiting with his vehicle's mother, and that she had to leave his presence because of how it upset her to hear that. Uh, and so she went in a different room, and she came back a little while after that and said that uh, she got past letting that be a reason to not come back, or I'm not sure exactly what was already said about that. But the point was that Doe felt like she grew by getting rid of her resentment, because the resentment is what was causing her problems, even with her health, if I understood correctly. And and the next level doesn't. Um, I mean, people could be dealing with resentment against God when they're challenged in a major way. You know, I can imagine that some individuals that lost loved ones in that flood could be saying to God, you know, how dare you, or um, what kind of God are you that took those people away, and and that can end up becoming like a, a bad sore in somebody's mind, because the next level, you know, we all know that life is precious. I think, I mean, sometimes we don't, of course, and we take advantage of things, or we do things that is detrimental to our health, and but that's part of the experience. And even people that are wanting to exit by their own hand, um, are, can be misunderstanding uh, that difficulties in the human kingdom are meant to happen to us so that we can outgrow seeing them as a negative. Even though they are negative when they're happening, they're actually like receiving medicine, and that medicine can be either taken and accepted and allowed to heal them from whatever their disease is, their disease, and or um, uh, it could all take them out. I mean, they could leave because of they didn't get along with somebody, or somebody broke up with them, or or for other reasons, like they lost their career, or their reputation, or they didn't want to face the judge, or their spouse, or their family members with something they did, or who knows what the list is of things, right? That would be reasons for somebody to think, I want to just get out of this vehicle to stop this torture. Well, anybody with any experience in the human kingdom, with any kind of degrees of depression, probably has experienced, maybe maybe I just want to leave to stop this torture in my head from happening. And yet, if we ask the next level for help with that, uh, they'll give us the help to, but we still have to put into effect the help. So that's where the next level's love isn't just the help; it's the medicine as well. The next level is loving us because and know that there's things about us that we need to change to become a real being. Because the other aspect of this being a copy or being a or a facsimile of the reality, like a biological hologram, is that uh, these vehicles are time shared by who knows how many discarnate deceased humans, the minds of deceased humans that have a signature, a vibration. They're like a little database. I don't know if it's how. I don't know if there's any value to their exercising that database much. Maybe they only, have ways to exercise it a little bit at a time by influencing humans with their thinking and behaviors and ways. Um, so and so the and so a schizophrenic person, by some definition of that, which I'm not claiming to understand all the different definitions that have been proposed for that condition of seeming to have more than one personality that are distinctly different and ways and behaviors and ways thinking. Uh, don't feel like was the evidence of uh, two strong spirits trying to have control of the vehicle and not time sharing. So one was kicking out the other. So they were like battling. Anyway, and but otherwise, what we have happening in our human vehicles is we have accumulated certain discarnates because of our choices in life, and that's anything from. It does not include, uh, from my understanding. Well, I may be wrong about that. I may be remembering this wrong, but I remember they were asked if influences were helping us walk. And I think that may be the case, that the young ones are, because humans that are in, bad accidents and things, and something happens to their spine, sometimes they can end up bypassing the normal nerve pathways and are able to find ways of stimulating certain things to happen, which might be, well, it could be the next level. It could be, could be helping that individual learn how to do that, or it could be, a trial and error based on human ideas on how to, like trying to walk by trying to do it. So you're trying to, moving those directions is like retraining the vehicle. So I don't know if there's an actual discarnate that, um, but there wouldn't have to be. It would be like automatic. Let's say a child is, just beginning to walk, uh, and they've got granddad, great granddad who died, and when he died, he thought, or grandma, it doesn't matter what the spouse name was. When he died, he was attached to his son or daughter, and so he stayed around his son and daughter, and he acted like a guardian angel, taking care of them when he could. kind of alerting him to danger and things like that, to the capacity that he had before he died for that, because that's going to be different, for different people. But so so that individual's attention for that individual could also include, teaching them things, helping them with reading and writing, whatever it is, we don't know. And by doing that, those individuals, uh, if their biology is equipped to do things, which a lot of the biology can be damaged, I think, right from birth, even from before birth, because of generations of damage. It's not like any one way of acting, I don't believe, is a reason for somebody having certain deficiencies. And if it was, the reasons why that person was acting in those ways was also part of the deficiency they got in the genes and, from the behaviors and ways of their ancestors. And so we carry with us. We're also like on a time capsule that our vehicles, at certain ages, probably in relationship to the genetic code, experience certain problems. Now, it might depend on how we were raised and what environments we were raised in, and whether certain propensities of the genes uh, um, were to become a problem. In other words, the reverse of like having a skill. Like, let's say you were a really good pianist in a previous life, your grandfather, or maybe it skipped generations, and you had somebody that definitely portrayed that programming, and then for some reason it gets triggered in a newborn generations later, and they come into life to where it's very natural for them to play piano like crazy. I mean, they learn very quickly. They had a propensity to learn the piano. It was built for them. See, that's why we're not real, because we're the continuation of what was given to us. But the parts that are real about us is when we took over the vehicle, when we sought to do what we wanted to do. That wasn't necessarily something that came easy. I mean, like would happen in the genes, right? If you had if you had generations of programming to be an explorer, it's not going to be that hard to want to pick up and go to the other side of the planet to discover what's out there, or because there was rumors that there was gold or whatever it was, because the influences and the space alien souls were telling people, saying, why don't you go over there to get that material? Because they wanted to propagate that material. They wanted to build the technology from the materials and the quest of it so that they could build spacecraft so they could get off this planet and they could have more members of uh, their races, their group, whatever group they're a part of, in order to start their new civilization on another planet somewhere, because they believe that humans have polluted this planet. There are contactees that you will hear talk about being told that their planet died because of pollution or from nuclear weapons. There's another aspect of what some of the space aliens have said to people. And so I don't doubt those things are true, that those planets were in a form of decay, but or destruction, that the next level probably allowed to happen because they needed to have a recycling there, and they probably saved some souls from that, and others they dissolved into some other form of matter. I don't know exactly what happens with that soul material because the soul material is actually it's got a physicality to it, and it's got force to it, and it's programming also. I mean, programming is good. Like if you got a program in your mind that um, when you see a bottle of alcohol, you just block it out and put your mind on something else, and you don't even let it register any kind of influence of wanting that when you once had that. That's evidence of growing your mind. Growing your mind, I don't think, is. Uh, I mean, it can be related to reading books and things. I think because you can grow your mind to see different things that you might not have the experience of seeing directly, so you can see through other people's even novels. I think people talking about different things because they're all bringing their imagination and their experience and their study of experience to their books that they write. So you can see how you could learn a lot by the books, but but the books alone aren't going to give you the the kind of strength that you get by conquering an addiction. Um, except if except if the book is talking about conquering an addiction, it might be in the story or something, and this person is talking about it and is in positive ways, and it stimulates the person to think, I want to conquer this or I want to conquer that. I don't, and so in that way, you know, I shouldn't say things in a limited way that somebody can't be learning a lot. But they're still going to have to put it into motion. That's my point. That they can have book knowledge that doesn't ever put anything into motion. And that's a danger, like I was talking about before, of going in the direction of self love. It's not that the next level doesn't want you to love yourself, but they don't want you to love yourself any more. This is the way I put it anyway, any more than you love somebody else. And like love your neighbor as yourself. I take it to mean, that you're not giving your total love to that. The only person you can give your total love to would be your older member, because they're the only ones that can receive it and not take advantage of you. If you give it to somebody else that's in the human kingdom that maybe you do feel that way about, um, I think the next level is going to show you things about that person that that doesn't deserve your total love or government. You know, like let's say that you want to put your all into the government, to support the government, what they're doing, or the president, or or the governor, or whatever it is, what leader of your community, the principal in the school, or you just really want to support that person. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think but no human can live up to that in the way that a member of the next level would live up to it. I mean, there's going to be flaws in every human. We all have flaws. We all have areas. That's where they say, that everybody's a sinner. But what they get wrong with that is when they think that Jesus took them away from us, and so that we don't have to take them away from ourselves anymore. And if we don't take them away from ourselves, then we get the same reward. You only get the reward for what you do, proportionate. When you change a characteristic that you want to change, you want to do it. You're not doing it because somebody told you to do it. T and Do didn't. They talked about it in the tapes. That we don't want you to do what we tell you. I don't think they said it that way because they might have. Uh, they didn't talk for each other. They talked, and you could see them agreeing, and you could see them sometimes not agreeing exactly with what the other is saying, which usually means expressing it differently, because they were operating as one mind, but two components of it, trying to draw on their older member's mind, who is not in a physical vehicle, which is a big job. It's a big, big, big job. I thought it was not a big job. I was stupid. I was in the classroom, and I thought that I wanted to do a task like my older member was doing. I said that in my mind to T. And that was the beginning of my realizing that there were a number of aspects to the task I was doing as a student that I was not giving enough effort to. And you can go through, why and how but it doesn't do any good to, dwell on things that are, failures. Failures can be a really good lesson also, and a very hard lesson, though said. And but the only real failure is when we turn away from the next level entirely, and and even that can be forgiven. But what's not going to be forgiven, because we won't allow it to be forgiven, is teaching or telling other people not to gravitate to the teachings of the older members, T and Do, telling them that there's something wrong with that, that they were mistreated. The students, they were not mistreated in any way, shape, or form. The opposite is the truth. That's why those ideas are out there, because those ideas are out there to make it hard, so that when you hear the information, if you've got a little bit of next level mind in you, there's something that it'll spark some curiosity, hopefully. And I'm not saying when. It could be, it could be a little before your vehicle dies. I don't know. What the next level of the judge of when somebody is waking up, and whether that soul or spirit is capable of still growing to become a member of the next level, so that they would want to save that soul or spirit for future civilizational planting. All right, I'm going to go to a different subject. I see there's nothing new in the chat room. And this is a question and answer I got. There was a comment left on Reddit, and I'm going to read the comment. Yeah, I can't hear you. Let me come in there and hear what you're saying. I'm back for a few more minutes. Oh, and now the air conditioner went off. Okay. So since I said I was going to talk about this a little bit, I'll go ahead and do it. The question on Reddit was, did he really believe what he taught? And then he goes through his thinking, what would cause someone to choose to kill himself and bring dozens of others with him? Do you think Marshall Applewhite really believed that extraterrestrials were going to pick them up? Or do you think he saw no other way out? Why would someone choose to push such an agenda goal? He literally could have pushed any sort of ideology he wanted in order to get whatever he desired. Was he just suicidal or possibly schizophrenic? Something along those lines. Well, I wish you would go to Reddit and read my response because I don't know if I can do it justice by reading the whole thing, but I'm going to just answer it a little bit, saying that the bottom line answer is yes. But it was far more than belief. Belief is weak. It's like asking an expert car mechanic if they believe they can fix a car. If they know their trade, they know they can do it, though the process might not be easy and they might face challenges along the way. And in the analogy, it might not be worth their time and effort. Also, it serves us to remember that his partner, T, with him, was witness to what they were teaching, and Doe came to know that T was just as knowledgeable as he, but actually even more so, so that this was his learning experience as well. I'm saying these things because I am one of their witnesses of the process they were teaching, that I put into practice enough to know a little bit about that trade, though I didn't succeed in graduating with them, though that doesn't mean I won't in some way in the future. Uh, I said, and yes, he believed extraterrestrials existed and were throughout the universe, but knew that the ones and knew that the ones where he was from were the literal creators of the earth and all its life forms. when I heard what they said about members of the kingdom of heaven having physical bodies grown for them in next level labs and traveling in physical spacecrafts that served those labs, it made sense to me. Though before then I had no exposure to those ideas. Then 12 years later, it dawned on me that they really were real. But they are not the space aliens who are actually the so called fallen angels in the records, named Lucifer, and having other names for those that left their next level membership at some time prior to this current civilization on Earth. Individuals with equivalent elementary membership in the next level from any number of planets stationed outside the solar system were put to the test, drawn to Earth to choose to leave their current suit of clothing, body, to earn a more sophisticated vehicle, one that would not be susceptible to going against their older members as others did. T felt that was the reason to start the current civilizational experiment, to put others to the test of whether they will choose to outgrow their humanness or thrive on being human and remain cyclic and primitive compared to the next level above human. Then I address another part of that question and I say, uh, it wasn't a matter of needing a way out. They talk about this on their website that they knew and preferred leaving with their human vehicles, but were willing to leave by accident or by illness or by being hated by somebody. I know this is how they thought because this is how I think, and that thinking is normal for even students of the next level who likely were reincarnated before and even spent some time in elementary membership in the next level. I'm talking to people now too that are, if you're coming to this information for the first time, it could be that that soul is been with you and was wanting you to eventually have experience and see if you could grow to, or where there could be a number of vehicles that are at that place that souls could be interested in. And then some of them, some of them, those souls might have good success with, and and that's not going to be the soul that was born with our vehicles because the next level. I mean, it can be because the next level could give a vehicle a deposit, which is a first-time soul. So it could be that as well for explaining why somebody begins to be curious about this T&O information. So it wasn't, I'm going to go on to read the rest of that comment. It wasn't their agenda to leave the way they did, but it was their agenda to leave when their tasks were completed and done as best they could. They are souls who are real and have their plasma like physicality. You know how humans send packets of information, even complete objects that can be little artificial intelligence modules through the airwaves? Well, that technical ability is a type of facsimile of the next level's biological computer systems we see as our bodies, and they are run by souls that have built themselves into more powerful beings than humans are, than human spirits are, I should say, there. I'm going to keep on reading from this, even though I know this is a lot of repeat for a bunch of individuals in the chat. But T and Do pushed anything on anyone. Didn't T nor Do pushed anything on anyone. Our minds knew things they were teaching to be real. It's a real recognition. Compare it to the way some humans come into their lives having a knack of playing the piano. I already gave that analogy before, so I'll skip past that. But these talents and skills are introduced to them at some point, but some never excel in those areas, while some do. Some those some are It's a time when their genes are expressing themselves in those ways, or their minds had developed in previous lifetimes to be good at this or that. There's a huge amount going on many humans don't know about, but they could, if they open their mind more to the possibilities others have experienced. And then, with that said, I wrote, first off, though the point of view expressed by media and the so called experts seem to be within your questions, propositions, they are mostly wrong, almost entirely. But one will never know this if they haven't considered the alternative explanations and paid attention to some significant degree of to his and his students' writings, videotapes, and at least some of the over 1,000 audio tapes. About 900 can be found for free by an average searcher that show a huge part of the progression of ideas, with T speaking on about 196 of them. It doesn't really matter to me anymore to give people somewhat complete answers because often my words are wasted because the person asking doesn't really want to know, and I gain nothing by trying to show them what they don't know about. However, I still try at times to at least open some doors to someone's own exploration for no other reason than so that they can have some more accurate understandings than they will otherwise have from the media and experts. Has been drips. That was a joke that Doe had. Was an expert, but a has been drip. The people with little to no experience, I haven't read all the comments on this thread, but the few I read showed the same regurgitation the media and hearsay provided. Then I went on to answer another part of that question. And no, neither T nor Doe showed any evidence in their lives of being suicidal. In fact, he was quite content in his life before he met T and had almost nothing in common with T and never were bed partners. But I know people are going to refer to that, was it 2020 or ABC? I forget which now it was. That well, that might have been the same one that I guess played the footage or the audio tape part of Doe like on the bridge, uh, um, thinking about jumping off, but talking to God, and that doesn't mean that he was suicidal. That just means that he wanted to work for God. He wanted to, do more than he was doing. There was something about his life that wasn't fulfilling to him. Maybe that's why he opened up a deli wherever that was. I forget. It was Flagstaff or something, maybe. I forgot where it was. But maybe things were. Well, he said that about a year before. I don't know if that was a year before he met T, which would have been about 1971 or so, 70 or 71. He His life began to fall apart. But before that, it was a content life. I mean, not even before that, even during that, it was a certain amount of contentness to his life. I don't know at what point he had, a difficulty that brought him out to that area where he opened up that store. I guess he had money, but but he talked about being content. That he was a divorcee and he was content and he was saying, he didn't talk to us about all this in one sitting because he was never really trying to, describe his life, his vehicle's life, much. So he gave it to us in drips and drabs. You'll see it throughout the audio tapes and talking about his interactions with T at first and all that. There's a lot of really good detail in there that if you really want to know how he came about, how he came to know what he came to know, then you'll see a lot of the evidence of that. It's not like the way that is ever depicted by any of the media. That's why the media it's not true. It's not accurate. I'm not saying everything in the media is not true and not accurate, although a lot of it can be not true and not accurate. And if anybody doesn't know that by now, whatever media you're listening to, you gotta, you gotta scrutinize it, or at least be staying with that subject, and with an open mind that it might go in this direction, it might go in that direction, in terms of learning what really happened. And now you got all these people for years and years and years that everything is a false flag. Everything means something else. Everything, nothing is what it is on the surface. And that becomes another illusion. It's a way that the lower forces can twist people's minds to thinking that T&O's information is just another one of those illusions. And they can't tell the difference between one and the next. They can't see the difference between the Jim Jones experience and the T&O experience. But why? Because they haven't chosen to look into those experiences to learn the differences. Because they accept them, what the media said about them. And people with some next level mind, one of the characteristics of that is to not believe everything you're told. In fact, it can be even a stubbornness, of, disbelief. Um, Doubts is can be a part of that. That can be a different kind of thing entirely. But the next level can work with all of us, no matter what programming we have, if if we seek that help from them, and we keep on going in their direction, which would mean studying their information, reading their information, listening to the words that they were giving in the Beyond Human tapes, and trying to understand what he's saying. And we can listen to it thinking, this is crazy, that's crazy, this is crazy, that's crazy. But is it really? Is it really? And it's not really crazy. We know that it's crazy from a strictly human perspective. But do we want to have just a strictly human perspective? Because look what perspective we get from humans. We get all kinds of gobbledygook, and we get some good things too. It's not that the human kingdom's bad. It's a beautiful stepping stone to membership in the next level, because we have all things are available. We can become like rotten to the core, to where we have no discernible next level mind in us, uh, or we can become good to the core, to where we have enough next level mind in us that we don't want to lose, and we want to use to be of service by giving it to others. Because the lower forces don't want us to give it to others. They don't want this information spread, and if it is spread, they want to spread the wrong ideas about it, so that people won't look at it seriously. And so the next level loves us so much that they left in a way that made it hard to uh, love them, hard to accept them, hard to recognize what they were made out of, and what they were becoming, and what they were leaving behind, and what kind of humanness they were leaving behind. It's not that humanness is bad, again, but it's like, an animal isn't bad to a human, but an animal can only do what an animal can do. A human can do a lot more choices. Even though animals have choices too, they can learn. also. And they can even be of service to the level above them, like domesticated animals, like seeing eye dogs and others. Anyway, so humans have the capacity of being like domestics. I think there were some tapes where they talked about humans as domestics, and that's not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful design to have um, life forms that would have no future. Talking about the minds of those creatures at all levels would have no future beyond itself if the next level didn't have mechanisms for advancement built into the system, and also something that laboratories of next level members are monitoring in different ways. There are so many departments the next level has, and each one is a lab into itself. It might be, who knows how many different kinds of labs there are. Maybe there's not that many. And, you know, uh, they can do a lot of things, but I know this sounds like craziness, but it sounds like science fiction to a lot of people, but I don't think there's any science fiction in it. In fact, I think they gave us the science fiction. Not them alone, but by the presence of the space aliens, we get some things through the movies and everything, and in the airwaves, alongside the movies and inventions and things as the civilization advances technically, which doesn't mean it's advancing in the next level way, except when they recognize that technologies aren't the solutions, even though the next level is all for humans coming up with solutions to solve problems that can be taking the health away from humans, like the destruction of the food supply by the farming practices that have been going on for a long time. And, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's making a little stab at some of that, but it's probably such a small stab that what he's going to get some dyes out of foods. Well, it's good. That's good to do, I think. But at this point, I mean, vehicles may be able to absorb a lot of it, but in these days, as vehicles' immune systems get more and more taxed, I imagine that certain substances surface and cause more problems because the immune system is spread out too thin, and so you see more and more allergies and things. And that can also be in relationship to the decay of the mind, going against the next level of existence, even, and acting as if there is no next level, and all there is uh, some evolutionary aspect to consciousness, and that some of them teach that there's levels beyond uh, anything anybody can imagine. But then when you find out what they are teaching about that, uh, they're like talking about like showering people with love, and that kind of love. Though I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it can be a distortion of not knowing actually what the nitty gritty reason is for uh, uh, how to show love and who to show love to. Because if it's like you go to a different country and you don't know how to speak the language, and there's no way to, really learn a language except from the people that are living in that country. And uh, um, uh, you can only well, you can have a bunch of things in common, right? You all eat, sleep, and be merry, whatever, or have problems, and and develop illnesses and whatever it is. But uh, and you may all, but you have no uh, you don't recognize that there are some that have grown in ways that you haven't grown, because you may think too much of your own country that you came from, and so or you may look down on people from other countries, like all Americans are this, or all French people are that way, and you'll see that talked about that way in a lot of different communities, which is all bigoted behavior. It's all human behavior. It's not next level behavior to do that. So what I'm getting at is that you could be living in a total illusion about yourself and how great we are, and it doesn't take away from the things that have been good, because there have been good things that humans have done, because the next level gave them those things to learn to do, or they let the space aliens instigate things to do, and they would hope that humans would take any of those things and convert them into things that they would have them do with technology, as opposed to making atom bombs, make nuclear powered energy sources. That might be one example of what to do with the splitting of the atom. I can imagine, so I'll continue with this thing, and from Reddit, where I'm answering this question. So I wrote, so with that said, though didn't really bring us to self-exiting, because they use the word bring us. The serious students, like myself and a few others who were former students like myself, can testify that we knew we'd be leaving with or without our human vehicles from the start in 1975. Though the preference that is even expressed on their website, that is still available in the document Our Position Against Suicide, was to leave with their physical body, while also being willing to leave in whatever way the next level above human might have in store for us. Humans all pretty much believe and even know they will leave their bodies. I think that's kind of safe to say, right? They knew they could leave their bodies by any of the same reasons humans leave their bodies. They simply decided not to leave their exit of their bodies to some kind of fate. It is true, as some say, that had Doe or T not taught what they did, then they might not have left their bodies by their own hand. But then again, who knows? As look at how many humans that don't belong to so-called cults take their own lives, or are willing to leave while in service to some of what they feel is a higher calling. Think of how many firefighters or EMS workers or doctors or nurses or other caregivers or police or military members enter into dangerous circumstances to their lives endeavors. Does one say about them that they were led into that by some leader? Sure, sometimes that's the case. Do they have a death wish, though? If they do, then I believe that's a distorted state of mind because, as Tian and crew said in a number of places we have access to here, theirs was not a martyr trip because we need our human vehicles to learn lessons through. So it's a waste of human opportunity to live, to choose, to exit before our time, so to speak. However, one does have the right to exit by one's own hand, contrary to what the non Jesus believing Catholics and other religionists say. To many of them, they ignore how Jesus said about his laying down of his life by turning himself into those he knew without a doubt by many evidences wanted to kill him. No man takes it from me, he said. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it up again, because he knew he was going to enact his and his father's older member of the next level's will. And his father gave him that authority to choose. Instead, avid religionists come up with their own justifications to even kill other humans despite what their religious literature teaches, like you should not kill. And if you do, you shall surely die, because those who live by the sword die by the sword. That something that Jesus said about that. A generalized statement. I go on to write, we in the group we refer to as a class in our classroom, learning from Tian Do experientially, not from memorization at all. Learned how genuine Tian Do were, even from first meeting them. In my case, and some 20 something others, I'm trying to speak for, we knew without a doubt that Tian Do had no desire to convince any of us or tell any of us what to do, unless we regularly asked them to tell us what to do and, most importantly, put into motion what they gave us to do by our asking in general or in specifics. I go on to write, because of what I learned about Tiendo, as evidenced throughout the audio tapes, it's safe for me to answer that question, in part by saying that each of those students who left had to earn it, and I did not. I know this will seem crazy, and that's understandable, but I am a first hand witness, and to see my testimony, one might have to listen to the audio tape history of arriving at the choice for exiting our vehicles. Bodies. They were never pro the S word. But I'm not bringing it up because I don't want any bots to eventually, find this and say, well, they used that word so many times, so we got to flag this one. Maybe if I just use it once, maybe that won't get flagged as soon. If that is a word that gets flagged eventually, I don't know. So they were never pro the S word, but they also knew they were not their bodies, but were actually minds that wouldn't be dying when the vehicle died. And that was very different for them than for others in human vehicles because they had grown to not only believe in Tiendo, but to have had many experiences putting into effect all he and T taught over the years. And that experience equaled coming into knowing what they said, taught, and demonstrated in their own behaviors and ways was correct, was most real compared to what religion and spiritual New Age behaviors and ways are correct, was most real. Wait, compared to what the religions and spiritual New Age thinking mutated into. Sorry. Let me go back to that. But let's see. That was one of those sentences I should have broke up. They began to know by putting things into motion. And just like somebody that conquers alcohol, they learned a lot about how to do that. So they know it. They know it. Once they've done it, they've known it. They know how to do it. The same thing with overcoming anything in the human kingdom. I know how to do it, and it's up to me to decide uh, when, where, how, and you know, to what degree uh, I want to uh, do certain things, or think in certain ways, or act in certain ways. This I'm talking about anybody in this circumstance. Uh, we know what the goal is if we read the Heaven's Gate book. That's the goal. So I'm not trying to get people to join me in any respect. Um, but if they do, the last thing I want to do is tell them something different about what Tiendo gave us, except to the degree that I talk about my own experience, which I think is of value to do. And it's a value to have choices. And it's a value um, to feel our way into what to do in life. By um, uh, using our feeler is being sensitive. Like staying with somebody because they provide the bread and butter, and you don't like anything else about them, hardly. Uh, um, I mean, maybe that could be fine. I'm not the judge of anybody. But if it begins to interfere with something that you really want to do bad, that's where it can become a problem. Like, let's say, I know because people have, uh, well, I've experienced my own experiences in this regard. Um, that if somebody's gonna, because if they're gonna, if somebody was gonna try to stop me from talking in these live streams, talking about Tiendo to people, I would have to get away from that person eventually and do it. Even if I was with that person still, um, I'd have to have my time where I could still do that to the degree that I want to do it. And so that's why it's not a time now necessarily for people to leave everything behind. Although it's always an option to do that if somebody feels that that's what they need to do, and if they want to do it for T&O's benefit, then they would be asking T&O if that's something to do, and if so, how to do it and how thoroughly to do it, because it's not a. It would be wrong to try to escape responsibilities by leaving everything behind. Even though I don't know how that would apply to financial things, because that's not the same thing as like when you have the responsibility of children. Tiendo felt like humans are responsible for the children that they bring into the world. Then I ended that talk, and I'm going to end the stream by going to the chat room uh, after I read the end of what I wrote on the Reddit Heaven's Gate page. Um, I'm referring to, I'm saying this grandiose series of ideas take work to really come to see clearer, talking about everything I've been talking about. That came from Tiendo's mind. But it is possible. But one must be ready to press for that understanding by wanting to see the truth. If one does begin to see this as possible and continues to pursue it, they will come to understand things others don't yet. Though over time, some others will probably come around. It's like taking in smelling salts, and they only wake up, and they only wake us up a little each time we take them by examining their information with at least somewhat of an open mind. Right, and it's like it's also like taking medicine. Listening to their information is like medicine because it's going to challenge us, like I was talking about before. It has to. That's why it's such evidence of reality because um, nobody in their right mind would do the kind of task that Tiendo did unless it was reality. Because everybody hates you, except for the few students that gravitate to you, which they know is going to be that way because they plan it that way. They don't plan for people to hate them. They just know that the lower forces being around will foster uh, um, uh, disbelief and not attributing experiences um, to being part of a next level astronaut training program. Seeing it that real. Instead, people a lot of times cling to their religious understandings or their spiritual ideas. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because the object is to come through them all, come through everything in the human kingdom to get to recognizing the greatest purpose that a human can have is to become a member of the next level. It just becomes common sense that there's evolutionary levels above the human kingdom, like there's evolutionary levels above mineral and plant and animal and human. Well, human. And a human shouldn't look down on plants, uh, but a human that sees an animal uh, let me put it this way: a human that sees another human acting like an animal uh, is something that that human would naturally want to stop from happening. But uh, but even the effort to stop them from acting like animals can be misguided when the older members have come during that time period and given the updates of where their behaviors and ways, where their mind is best suited to actually outgrow their humanness. Because becoming a member of the next level is the best way to be able to help humans. Because that would be one of your first jobs, probably, to help humans. And that could mean like a human that has no knowledge of T and O. It doesn't make any difference because you don't know when that could happen. But they're having a problem in their life and they're asking for help. And the next level feels like they want to give them some help. So the next level actually sends them something that can help them in the ways that the next level determines is helpful, which isn't necessarily giving humans what humans think they want. In fact, many times it's not. The next level doesn't need to give humans wealth, but they might allow humans to, I mean, not allow, so to speak. I mean, humans are allowed to gather wealth, but the next level doesn't want them to, the next level wants them to have nice things, I've said, but doesn't want them to want them. And why is that the case? Because uh, those nice things are only so useful, they're only so valuable, and they go away. They don't satisfy one's ultimate desire to become something great. Even if somebody's motivated to be significant, I mean that can be also misguided because the best we can be is to want to be conduits for our older members. Jesus talked about that. All right, folks, I'm just going to go to the chat. And if there's nothing new, which there isn't, I'm going to call it a night. I hope some of this has been useful. I'm going to get on to talk about the Antichrist thing that I wrote in the next stream. In addition, I didn't talk enough about tape 266, but I did give a little synopsis of it. So I encourage people to listen to the tapes themselves and really, several times, especially if you're disturbed by it. Um, Listening, asking for help to hear it in the highest way that they can hear it might be helpful. And the next level maybe will, depending on the asking, help you to not have to listen to the bombardment of influences in your mind while you're listening to the tape. It is beginning to trust in the next level more. So, good night, folks.